welcome to today's edition of Closed Session. As we're wrapping up 2019, heading into 2020, it's time to take a recap of some of the things that have been happening in the Peace region and some of the organizations that have been making a lot of news. And right now with me today, Darren Kuester, the chairman of the Peace River School Division. Darren, first off, thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you for coming in.
Absolutely. Now, the first question I have for you is that very busy year for the Peace River School Division. What are some of the big accomplishments? Talk about the year that was.
Well, I think the year that was, some of the big things that we've had is, one at the top of the list is we've been able to secure our superintendent for another 2-year contract. Dr. Bennett will be with us for another 2 years. We're very happy that he's decided to stay with us. Over the years, the division has done very well under his leadership. Some of the things big move for us this year, we moved our central operations from our building in Peace River to this building we're in now here in Grimshaw. That's been a good move for our admin team. They've really become more cohesive, and it's allowed us some economies of scale and some reorganization that we weren't allowed in our building just because of the fit of the building. Of course, first and foremost, and the biggest thing that we are proud of is the increases we have in our annual education report. Our 3-year plan annual education report is kind of our report card from the government every year on how we're doing.
Right.
And we're very proud that we've increased in several areas in our provincial achievement exams and our diploma exams. And we exceed the provincial average in a lot of areas when it comes to safe and caring parental involvement. We exceed the province in that. We also exceed the province in several of our First Nations, Métis, and Inuit measures for success that we have. We even this year got to celebrate with a couple students that achieved 100% on a provincial achievement exam. So yeah. From the educational side of things, very, very pleased with the direction things are going.
And even in the province-wide too, I know one thing that we had is that an international organization has recognized Alberta, and in terms of world rankings, not just Canada rankings, world rankings, Alberta is ranked in the top 5 in both reading and science performances, well above the basic level, which is level 2 according to that score. And what is it about the Alberta education system that just seems to set students up for success? The numbers are there.
Well, yeah, that's something that doesn't get a lot of airtime around board tables because, like, it is an international measure, and it's something that all Albertans can be very proud of, and it's the system that does it. It's not any one thing. It's not our exceptional teachers. It's not our exceptional support staff. It's not our exceptional admin teams. What it is it's a combination of a long tradition of a system that's been in place where you have locally elected trustees working with a strong government department, hiring the best people they can find, and that whole thing has to work together, and it's an entire community effort. It takes, especially in these smaller communities, to keep that education level at the world-class level. It's something that we don't think about on a day-to-day basis, but the system we have is a phenomenal system, and like you say, every now and again it's time to, or it's nice to take note of those things and be proud of the accomplishments we made and take a long hard look at what we're doing so that we don't slip in that.
And also, I guess at the same time too, is that from what they see, and I know everybody likes to talk about the education system, everyone's got an opinion on it, but yet when you see results like this, and I guess facts, you like to say, don't lie, if the system's not broken, then is there really need to fix it?
Well, and that's, I don't believe that anybody feels we need to fix the system. There's a lot of noise out there that it's an expensive system to operate, and perhaps it is. I don't have the data on how is our system more expensive than any of the rest of the country. What I do know is, like you say, the numbers don't lie. It's a system that does work, and it is held up as one of the best in the world. So it may be expensive, but I believe that's a true investment.
Yeah, that's true. And also, I guess another thing too is that obviously there's always challenges because unless you're Bill Gates or somebody like that, you do have budget limitations, especially school boards or any government-funded organization. What are the challenges going forward, at least in terms of spending and things like that? And at least the recent education cuts, have they really affected the Peace River School Division?
Well, they have. They've definitely caused stress. There's no doubt about that. In the spring, when we did our budget, we made a commitment as a board to, not knowing what our revenue was going to be, to put in a budget that was, you know, we felt that last year we delivered a good program and we did it in an efficient manner. So we put in a budget that was very similar to last year. As it turns out, with the announcements, though base funding was the same, several grants were cut, leading to about an $800,000 shortfall for us. That meant that we have to find that money somewhere. So through some efficiencies, we have been able to find some of it. We haven't finalized our budget yet. We have to do a fall update budget, which is due in January. We have not finalized that yet, but we've made a commitment to hold fast on services and positions and do our best to just realize the savings through efficiencies that we can, and we're going to run a bit of a deficit and hopefully be able to fund that through reserves. Now, saying that, our reserves are not substantial. By the end of this school year, we anticipate our reserves to be somewhat less than 1 month's operating expenses. So, you know, that's getting thin. We know that. What's up for next year remains to be seen. We are planning for the worst, but a new funding formula is coming out. We won't know what that is until February when the new budget is announced. So we have some work to do between now and then, seeing what are absolutely necessary services. But it's like you say, we have a great system. Alberta has a great system, and Alberta, if Alberta wants to stay on the top, we're going to have to keep funding that system. But you know, that being said, there's always room for improvement. There's always efficiencies to be found.
Now, one place I know where no efficiencies can be found, and I know talking to somebody with the High Prairie School Division earlier this year, is a cost of insurance. And I think every school board across the province has been part of that voice saying, this is too much. And I've heard about the budget impacts in Edmonton, Calgary, even our neighbors in High Prairie. I'm safe to say that you're going to be joining them in their voices asking the government, what do we do about this?
Yes, and that's the government is working on that right now. They are very aware of it, and yeah, that was something far beyond our control. And came to light very late in the game as well. So for us, it was $500,000 impact on our budget, just the increase in insurance. It was substantial and outrageous, and you know, we're going to do what we can to mitigate that. But there is you know, when you're dealing with the insurance companies, there's not much you can do. Province is looking at other alternatives, perhaps some self-insurance and stuff, but we will wait and see on that. Hopefully there is some relief in that department in the near future.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I know a lot of school divisions definitely were kind of shocked when they saw that bill and what that can do to their budgets. I guess heading into it though is that sounds like 2019 was a pretty remarkable year, and heading into 2020, what are a couple of the big goals that you're hoping to check off the PSR or the PRSD's list?
Well, you know, this year, for the first time in several years, our enrollment is up. Our enrollment has been on a slight decline. Our enrollment is up a little bit. We're very pleased with that. Peace River School Division this year has hired a couple new positions, and one of them being a home education coordinator. That to bring people that are homeschooling. Lots of students that choose to homeschool have been homeschooling with what we call willing non-resident boards. So they'd signed up with other boards across the province, and they're doing homeschooling. Well, we looked at that and said, why not us? Why can't we offer that service to them? So we've hired a home education coordinator, and we've substantially increased the number of homeschoolers registered with us, and we hope that will do two things. It will introduce them to Peace River School Division, and we hope that we can offer them a higher level of access to quality supports that we have for the rest of our students. As well, a numeracy and literacy coordinator are also part of the mix in the central office here, and those are people that are dedicated to improving the numeracy and literacy in the division throughout the division. So they'll go out to schools and work through initiatives and find ways that they can increase through data-driven testing our level of numeracy and literacy, and hopefully bring our provincial achievement test and diploma exams up. Another big thing for us is wellness, and so we've got a couple of things on the go there. A couple of our trustees attended our spring conference in Edmonton for the Alberta School Boards Association and attended a Headstrong conference with a couple of students. And now we're bringing Headstrong to Grimshaw. So,
Okay.
in February, we will have a Headstrong conference here in cooperation with the Canadian Mental Health Association or Commission, and we're really looking forward to that. There'll be probably about 200 students in town here, and all to deal with the stigma of mental health and breaking the stigma of mental health. And that kind of fits right in with our Wellness Champion initiative, which is, wellness for all staff and students and wellness for the communities. So we've run little challenges throughout different departments, different schools, to see who's doing the most. And our board is working right now on an advocacy plan to see how we can better advocate for all the supports that we need in all the communities where we have schools.
Okay, great. And I guess now that you mentioned it, kind of homeschooling, I always like to ask, as somebody who's involved in the education field, what are your thoughts on homeschooling?
I think homeschooling is a very viable alternative. We have, I think, probably a unique situation for boards in the province. We have a trustee that sits on our board that has done homeschooling for several years.
Okay.
And that has brought a perspective to our board that's been invaluable, and she has helped to lead in setting up a committee to get a homeschool coordinator. I just think when I became a trustee, I became a trustee for Peace River School Division, and yes, goal number one is to look after the needs of all students in Peace River School Division, but we are a public school. So being a public school, you are, basically any child out there is able to come to our school. We have no restrictions on who attends our schools.
Of course.
And so it becomes our concern of the education of every student out there. And as a trustee and a dad and a grandpa, I just education to me is extremely important, and I believe that if we don't invest heavily in education of our children, we will pay dearly for it in the future.
Well said. Darren Kuester, Chairman of the Peace River School Division, thank you very much for being on closed session.
Thank you.